Hey everybody, welcome back to the 9 Frames podcast. This is episode 22. It is Monday, September 11th, 2023. I'm one half of your host, Bill Whalen.
And I'm Mike Whalen.
You can catch us on YouTube at 9 Frames Podcast. We're on Spotify at 9 Frames. X, we're on there at 9 Frames Pod, and we're on playergm.com. This was a pretty fun and story-packed weekend of baseball.
As we expected, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of playoff matchups, maybe future playoff matchups that we see in a month. It'll be pretty crazy. I wanted to start it off with something I found absolutely insane. There is only 2 players in MLB history to have ever hit 20 home runs or more in their rookie season, 40 or more stolen bases, and 100 or more runs scored. That first one is Mike Trout in 2012, and the second one is Corbin Carroll in 2023.
Yeah, he really has been that good. That's the thing, like, as we were personally discussing, how Senga might have a chance for Cy Young, or not Cy Young, even Rookie of the Year, but, like, you just talked about how good Corbin Carroll's been. I mean, it kind of seems like it's all him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a class alone with Mike Trout from 2012, I think that award's kind of locked up.
Yeah, Rookie of the Year especially. I mean, the guy's he should be if the guys weren't so good in front of him for MVP, I'm sure he might come in 5th or 6th.
I was going to say maybe top 5-ish.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
Behind the big 4, I mean, he's up there.
Yeah, for sure. Wanted to give a shout-out also to new Brewer Mark Canha. He has a 20-game on-base streak going right now.
Ain't that funny?
Mm-hmm. The Brewers are currently sitting 3 games up of the Cubbies, so he's definitely been contributing since they got him.
Yeah, it was a good under-the-radar move that really didn't cost them much at all.
No, you can't knock it at all. Getting another outfielder like that.
And he plays first and third now.
Decent defense all around. He also has a solid outfield. I know people kind of knocked him a bit for it. He's kind of shaky there, but it's decent.
I mean, he's become, honestly, what he hasn't been this year is now he can play multiple positions. He used to just be an outfielder. Now he's an infielder as well, and, I mean, it just adds versatility, and you could always use a guy like that on your team.
I think he's the type of player that you can definitely use on your team as you try to make a playoff run.
Because he could be a 4th outfielder and then a backup infielder also. Mm-hmm. Or he could even start.
Wow. Keeping it in the NL Central, I don't know if you saw this, but the Reds game was delayed on Saturday.
For what?
Noelvi Marte. He wasn't looking when he was having a catch with the fellow rookie, Ellie De La Cruz, and he got hit straight in the nose.
I did see that, yeah.
He got hit straight in the nose by Ellie De La Cruz, who was one of the hardest throwers in the league, man. It definitely looked painful.
It definitely was painful.
But it could have been much worse.
Yeah, he got lucky.
Knowing how the head works and everything around there, man.
There's nothing wrong with him? Like, he didn't break his nose or anything?
The thing is, we do not know yet. That's what I was going to say. The Reds manager said he is unsure of when Marte will be back. That is pending tests right now, so I'm sure we'll probably know by today.
Yeah, I was going to say they probably will let everyone know today.
Probably in a few hours, yeah. But keeping it, again, in the NL Central, a lot of NL Central news in the intro. The Cubs call up their number 1 prospect, Pete Crow Armstrong, this morning. They're, like we said, 3 games back in the NL Central, and they are 2 games up on Arizona for the second wildcard spot, which makes them 2.5 up on the playoffs in general.
Yeah, I mean, they're making a push, and they're calling up their top prospect to join them.
3rd number 1 prospect called up this week, so it's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, all of these teams they think these guys are ready to go.
Yeah, so it's crazy to see that the new wildcard format actually kind of changes teams' mentality coming into September.
Oh yeah, that extra spot, why wouldn't it? I mean, the young guys getting called up is interesting because it was always they were trying to stay away from them being called up at this time, but I guess now teams are like, who cares? We want to win.
Teams were always trying to play their little chess with service time, not anymore so much. So that's good.
I think Pete Crow Armstrong was having like a nice season too in the minors, and they could really use a guy like that. He's going to be like a top of the lineup guy. Put a jolt into the lineup, a lot of speed.
Should be very interesting to see. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about it because this is going to be kind of a recap episode of what happened on the weekends. But we have a huge series coming up, a huge couple of series coming up. But the biggest one is Texas visiting Toronto for a 4-game starting Monday.
They do not play well in that building.
They are a half game out of the playoffs right now. That is Texas Rangers. So, I mean, this is a huge 4-game against the team that is in the 2nd spot after the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be battling for positions against each other, which is crazy. It seems like every series that comes up now is like it has playoff implications.
In both leagues, it's very interesting. Toronto is a game and a half up on Texas right now for that last spot, and a game up
In a
on
four-game?
the second spot.
A lot can happen in the next 4 days.
That could flip it all the way. They're playing for their lives here, both of these teams.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. The other one I wanted to talk about, Atlanta is visiting Philly for a 4-game. That starts with a doubleheader today. Should be interesting to see if Philly could step up. They're feeling confident lately. And Atlanta's playing a little bit rougher than they usually do, but that's not saying much because they're a great team.
Anytime you have a 4-gamer that starts with a doubleheader, the least you can be thankful for is that you're at home, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough for the Braves to have to go to Philly, play 2 today, and then 2 more to round out the series by Wednesday, and then they got to leave.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Atlanta also did clinch a playoff spot for themselves already, so one of the only teams to do that.
The only team.
The only team to do that.
They became the first yesterday. Yeah.
First team to do that is Atlanta, and they are officially in the playoffs. So, it's time for Philly to really step up. Atlanta couldn't be more comfortable right now.
Yeah, they're still sitting comfortably for the 1 seed. They're, 6 games up?
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely don't need the games as much as Philly does.
But when it comes to Texas and Toronto, man, those teams are fighting for their lives.
Yeah, both of them are. One of them's not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, one of Toronto, Seattle, Texas, or Houston won't make it because Tampa Bay is making it.
Very true. Yeah, I agree.
So there's 4 teams playing for 3 spots.
And with a 4-game coming up here, couldn't be bigger.
And one of those spots is a divisional championship in the AL West still that 3 teams are playing for. It's 2.5 from Seattle and 3 from Texas. So nothing settled.
Pretty impressive on how Houston's built that lead in only a week and a half or so.
That's just what they do. They're just a good ball club.
Well, we'll get into the ball that happened over the weekend.
We're going to kick this one off in the National League, specifically the National League East. We had a huge series this weekend. It was a 4-game. Oh, actually, it was a 3-game. Miami is visiting Philadelphia.
Philly's feeling good. The Marlins are feeling good, too. They're trying to squeeze into that last spot.
Yeah, we mentioned Yuri Perez was the first starter for the Marlins in this series, and he'd been having a really good year. Philly would actually get a couple off him early, thanks to a Trey Turner homer in the first inning. That's his 23rd of the year. He's been on fire recently. And then Harper would single in a second run in the third to go up 2-0.
Yeah, Philly's really rallied behind Turner, like we said, and Turner and Harper are probably their top 2 guys in terms of fan service.
He's getting hot at the right time because we're getting close to the playoffs, and if we're getting this Trey Turner, they could make another deep run.
Most definitely.
Because they are probably the third or... I still think they're a little bit better than the Brewers. I think they're the 3rd best team, but I won't...
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times. I think that with the experience they have and the confidence that they have, they could do it.
Yeah, so they're a top 4 team in the National League, undoubtedly, so they could make a deep run. Philly starter Christopher Sanchez, who we also gave a little bit of flowers to because he's been good recently, was good again. He allowed no runs over 5 innings, but as soon as he leaves, the Philly bullpen just gives it up. Specifically, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who gives up a 2-run jack to Jesus Sanchez, his 13th of the year.
Been kind of disappointing on the year in general. If Philly's going to lose games, that's kind of where it's going to go wrong. That and their fielding.
Yeah, so it's a 2-2 ball game just like that, and now we get to the top of the 7th, the very next inning. Jacob Stallings hits a homer, his 3rd of the year. He's not really known for the pop. He's more of a defensive catcher. He gets his 3rd of the year off Matt Strahm in the 7th, and that was the final run scored as Miami's bullpen would just close it down.
Yeah, 3-2 win over Philly feels great right now for Miami, and that's coming off beating the Dodgers in a series. You got to feel good about that.
I was going to mention it a little bit later for the 3rd game because I noticed it, but actually looking at the first game too, it looks as if Tanner Scott is the new closer for the Marlins.
Yeah, he steps into that spot a lot.
And Robertson is picking up mid-reliever, mid-inning wins. He gets
pretty
his
crazy.
5th.
I actually have Tanner Scott in fantasy, so I guess that's a good pickup.
That very much is a good pickup because he got a save on Friday and he got a save on Sunday, as we'll talk about.
There you go.
So, Miami wins that one 3-2. Nice way to start the series.
Yeah, Philadelphia, though, they're a great team, and what do great teams do? They bounce back, and they definitely did bounce back. They had an 8-4 win in Saturday's game as they put up a 5-spot off Johnny Cueto in just the 2nd inning. Like we said, pretty even kind of jarring to see Cueto out there in that jersey right now.
It really is very weird, and it was It was the 2021 free agent signings. Castellanos gets his 35th double of the year. It was a 2-run double. And then Schwarber hits his 42nd homer of the year
Pretty
for
crazy. He really,
a 3-run homer.
He genuinely is going to be one of the only players, maybe the only, I do not know for sure, but the only player ever to have more home runs than singles in a season.
Yeah, it's been a very strange season for him, to say the least.
You really don't see it. Philadelphia added 3 more off the bullpen in the 5th inning. That'll put them up 5-0, and you could not be feeling better after that.
Yeah, it was Miami put a little bit of a push. They
Very
got close,
so.
But then the bullpen just gave it right back. How do you put up 4 and you give 3 back?
Yeah, Miami scores 4 unanswered runs to go up or to go down 5-4. They cut the lead there to only a run, but not enough.
Yeah, and then they, like we just said, give up a 3 spot in the bottom of the inning, and that was the end of that game. 8-4 final.
8-4 Philly wins, so they split the first 2. How does Game 3 go?
Game 3 was much more interesting, and it was late game drama that took place. The Phillies bullpen again falters, but I mean that's a little bit later. At first, Philly gets 2 runs early in the first inning. 1 run in the third, so they're sitting pretty. They're up 3-0.
Yeah, 3-0 after the first third of the game, and this is a team that's known for the way that they can shorten games with the back end of their bullpen particularly, but...
That wouldn't be the case tonight.
Nope.
Miami immediately gets a 3 spot in the 7th inning as soon as the bullpen comes in, and it was Sir Anthony Dominguez again who falters. That's one of the guys that they need to start to step up a little bit more, and he's going the other way.
Looking at it in hindsight, it really looks like a team like Philly is one that could have used these reliever trades. There were a lot of them this year, and they really didn't make any.
Yeah, I mean, Strom gets another blown save, and then Dominguez gets the loss because he would come in and he would give up a 2-run homer in the 8th inning to Brian De La Cruz, his 19th, and that makes it 5-3 Miami.
Yeah, De La Cruz having a great homer season. I can't believe he's about to hit 20.
Yeah, he's going to hit 20. I mean, it's very impressive for a guy that you really wouldn't think was a power bat. Philly would get 1 back in the bottom of the 8th to make it 5-4 on Castellanos' 36th double. He's going to have a 40 double season potentially.
Seems that way, yeah.
That guy, he's a really good hitter, but that's about it. He really can't field much. They do threaten, but Miami's pen closes it out. And like I was just saying, man, again, Robertson picks up the W, and Scott gets the save.
Yeah, it seems like the confidence in Robertson to close out games has kind of been shaken, and they feel good about Tanner Scott right now. He's just been playing like on a different level.
Oh, yeah, he comes in and he slams the door in the 9th inning. I mean, he goes an inning and 2/3, only allows 1 walk and strikes out 3, no hits. So he quite literally slammed the door.
So this is a kind of the story of the series was the bullpens letting whatever team ended up losing, they ended up letting them down. If the Miami bullpen stepped up, they really could have had a sweep on their hands here.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, though, that both of the wins went to Robertson in this series, who pitched for Philly last year in the playoffs. And both saves went to Scott.
And this game was huge for Miami, scoring their only runs in the 7th and 8th inning to win that one.
Yeah, that's a nice game to pick up, especially after losing the middle game the way they did, where they thought they might come back, but then the bullpen gave up runs and they couldn't come back from it.
Like we said earlier, Miami still sits a half game out of Arizona, and Philadelphia has a 4.5 game lead on Miami still.
Yeah. And
you take 2 out of 3, and it's still a 4.5 game lead. That just goes to show how good Philly's been.
Oh, they've been terrific again this year, as was expected, to be quite honest with you. But Philly is going to be starting a 4-game, like we just said, the doubleheader today against the Braves at home. Miami's actually going to be going to Milwaukee for 4. That's tough.
Should be a fun doubleheader to watch, and God, a lot of 4 games.
Yeah, it is weird.
Midweek frame,
especially to start on Monday to go to Thursday. For the Phillies one, it's not even Thursday. They're just playing a doubleheader. That's why.
Taking up most of the weeks with a lot of 4-game series with playoff implications. Pretty wild.
Jam-packed week of baseball. We'll take it.
I am very interested in that Marlins 4-game in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have given our thoughts on these teams plenty, so we don't really need much. But Philly's a little bit better, but Miami and Milwaukee is going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, Miami and Milwaukee are kind of teams I see at a very similar level.
As we said for Philly and Milwaukee. So they're all in that very close vicinity, but within like 5 games of each other.
And someone's going to have to make a statement between Milwaukee and Miami. They can't afford to split that. I don't think either team can.
Miami needs them bad.
keeping it in the NL, and another big 4 game of the weekend. There were a bunch of them. They continued the 4-game Arizona and Chicago in Chicago after the Snakes pick up their first win 6-2 Thursday, as we did discuss on Friday's episode.
Yeah, a nice way to start the series with a 6-2 win.
Friday, we did say that we thought that the game between these two teams, which was Gallen and Taillon, would end up being kind of a pitcher's duel, and it did.
Yeah, we didn't think it would be this much. Taillon pitched his ass off, but, Gallen just outshined him completely.
Yeah, he's the one that we've been talking about as a Cy Young candidate, so it makes sense.
Yeah, Taillon goes 6 innings in this one. Doesn't allow a run. The bullpen really didn't allow any runs. The way they scored the run will be funny when we say it in a little bit, but Gallen is the real topic of discussion in this game, where he pitches his first complete game shutout, 9 innings, because he did have a 7-inning a couple years ago when they were doing those doubleheaders. First complete game, 9-inning shutout. 9 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 9 Ks.
Yeah, only 4 base runners in the entire game, and he strikes out 9, man. He looked great.
It's about as dominant as you could ask for your pitcher and Cy Young candidate to be.
We were saying he needed a bounce back. He had a couple tough starts before then. He stepped up big time.
Yeah, he's 15-7 now with a 3.31. So, he's not fully out of it, but it will be a little bit tough to climb back in at this point in the season.
For sure.
Taillon, as I just said, he didn't allow a run over 6. Only allowing 2 base runners, 1 walk and 1 hit, and he K'd 9. So it's really unfortunate they couldn't score at all off Gallen because Taillon really shoved.
Yeah, 9 Ks in 6 innings, none to scoff at for Jameson Taillon this year.
Well, only allowing 2 base runners, hell no. The only D-backs run, this is what I was saying before. It's kind of funny. Corbin Carroll, I know you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
He singled off of Jose Cuas, and it was a excuse me. It was a trap rule.
Mm-hmm.
The outfielder dove, he almost caught it. I think it was Suzuki.
Yeah.
And it just was off the ground by an inch and a half.
The thing about it is, on review, it definitely did hit the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was a trap, and it was a single.
Yeah, and that was all the way in the 8th inning, man. So Gallen was already rolling, and he had a decently low pitch count, so they just kept with him, and it paid off.
Gallen really put the team on his back, and this was a 1-0 win for the Snakes, so they're definitely feeling good, up 2-0 in the series going into the weekend.
I was going to say, you take the first 2 in Wrigley, man, you got to be feeling good going into that 3rd game, and the 3rd game actually goes their way too.
Yeah, we talked about how great this pitching matchup was going to be. It's Merrill Kelly for the Snakes and Justin Steele, which that's a real Cy Young candidate right there.
That might be the Cy Young favorite right now.
Could really be.
So Kelly was nice. He goes 5 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned, 5 walks, which was the problem, and 6 Ks. He struggled with his command a little bit later in the game, but honestly, he didn't break.
No, being able to only give up 1 earned run when you give up 9 base runners in 5 2/3, it's impressive for sure.
Yeah.
And we thought that runs would be scarce in this matchup. They certainly were.
This was the game we highlighted and said it was probably going to be the biggest pitcher's duel, which didn't turn out to be amazingly, but
pretty impressive.
Justin Steele, we said, was a Cy Young candidate, man. He shoves again. He goes 7 innings, 6 hits, only a run earned, no walks, 6 more Ks, and the game would be 1-1 as he exits, and it stayed that way all the way until it gets to extra innings.
Yeah, pretty insane to see Steele do that. I cannot remember the time I've even seen 3 earned runs next to his name, let alone 4. God, he's not giving up anything lately.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't happen ever for him anymore.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's out of nowhere, but hey, you love to see it, honestly. It's the top of the 10th now. Daniel Palencia throws a wild pitch, man, to allow the first of 2 D-backs runs, because Pham would single in another one to make it 3-1 in the top of the 10th.
Yeah, it feels like every time we talk about the Snakes, we're talking about how Tommy Pham is coming through with an RBI of some sort.
Yeah, he's been probably their best player since they acquired him.
Fair to say.
Definitely their hottest.
Mm-hmm. Like we in this game, Ketel Marte did leave with knee soreness as well, but the manager did say yesterday that he could be available off the bench as early as today.
Oh, damn. So he's not even going to start today?
No, I know, but he will be fine, is what it is. There will be no IL stint.
That's tough, okay. The Cubs would get one back as Cody Bellinger singles in the ghost runner that they put on second in extra innings. But Paul Sewald would shut it down after that for his 32nd save of the year.
Sewald keeps popping up on these little reports as well, man.
Yeah, so a nice 3-2 win in extras now, and the D-backs have won the first 3 in Wrigley all of a sudden.
That would have ended a wild card series between the two.
It's over, yep. But unfortunately, there is a 4th game in this series, and it's unavoidable. And I think maybe the D-backs' mindset changed because of them winning the first 3 games, because we mentioned on the Friday episode that Brandon Pfaadt was announced as the starter, but they end up going with Joe Mantiply, and then another bridge guy, and then Brandon Pfaadt pitched the last 6 innings to close out the game.
Yeah, really weird way to go about it, because they gave up runs early in this game. So if they just started with Pfaadt and he shut it down and put 6 innings up at the beginning, why didn't they just go to the pen later on?
Yeah, I'm not sure why, if they planned on using him for 6, they even changed it at all. Maybe to try to throw the Cubs off since they already won. I think maybe they just got too cute with it.
Threw me off.
Yeah. So, like we said, he gets the bulk. He finishes off the game, but it doesn't really matter because the Cubbies plate 1 in the first off Mantiply, which is really, I don't even really get it, but whatever. 3 in the third, and then they get their 5th run in the 5th, and they're up. They're up 5 to what?
Yeah,
5-1.
By the time Pfaadt comes in, it's 4-0 already.
Yeah.
Not really much the guy could do to help you out at that point.
Actually, no. I think it was only 1-0 by the time he came in. He gave up 4.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he gave up 4 of the 5, but still, it's because maybe he wasn't prepared to come out of the bullpen that day. I don't know.
Either way, super weird strategy, and it doesn't work. I could have predicted that.
Yeah, so it's 5-1 at that point. The Snakes would get one back in the top of the 6th to make it 5-2, but that's how the game would end. 5-2, the Cubs get a salvage game and avoid a 4-game sweep at home, which could have been truly catastrophic, because if they would have lost that game, they would have been tied with the D-backs for the second wild card instead of being 2 up.
Makes it kind of weird that the Snakes kind of handed them this one.
Yeah, they do play against each other next weekend, like we mentioned, so there are 3 more to make up ground.
I guess we'll see. Let's hope for no more silly decisions like that.
Yeah, the D-backs are going to be playing another weird 4 game in Citi Field starting tonight against the Mets. We will potentially be there.
Fair enough, yeah, and this one could have been a playoff implication series. Doesn't seem like it now that the Mets are 9 games out, but obviously the Snakes need this game more than ever.
Yeah, and the Cubbies move on to maybe a little bit of a break series. You never know, though, because it's 3 in Colorado. So.
Yeah, always kind of a tough series in Colorado because you could lose game on a coin flip, Somebody swings the bat, gets some good wood on it, and it carries out, and the game's over.
Absolutely. So, these are 2 teams that we'll definitely be keeping our eye on, probably down the rest of the stretch.
Most definitely. Moving it on over and picking it up in the AL, we already talked about Game 1 of this potential wild card matchup as Seattle visits Tampa Bay down in the Trop. That was a 1-0 game on Thursday that Seattle won. It was a fun game we talked about. But Friday, that's when we discussed it. How did the other 3 games go starting then? Well, Game 2 was George Kirby versus Taj Bradley. And we said that both of these pitchers kind of needed to step up for their teams, make a statement. They really did. They were solid. They weren't great. George Kirby goes 6 1/3, 5 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks, and 4 earned. So it's not a quality start, but that is because he was going over into the 7th.
He had some choice words about that, if you remember.
Yeah, he didn't like that at all.
He actually came out and said in the post-game interview and said he wished that he wasn't out there in the 7th and that it would be a topic of discussion in the future.
Yeah, not the toughest mindset to have.
I don't really know if you're... he's a second-year player, bro. I don't really know if you're in the position to be saying shit like that.
No, I think you would think that you would go out there and make a statement like Zach Gallen did, but I guess those are different pitchers.
Yeah, or even like Senga did after he went out and gave up a couple runs. You said that he has 4 to 5 days to prepare for this. You got to gut it out.
Most definitely. And Taj Bradley did the same thing. Didn't hear the same comments from him, though.
Yeah.
6 1/3 innings for him as well, so they go the same length. He gives up 6 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks, and 4 earned runs. As similar of a game as you could have.
Yeah.
But the statements afterwards are not the same. Taj Bradley obviously takes accountability for his shortcomings, while George Kirby does not. Both leave in the 7th, and they give up 4. So both kept their teams in the game, either way.
I think the reason that Kirby's comments were like that is because his runs were given up in the 7th, and Taj's were given up earlier, so he didn't really mind as much, I guess.
I think, the story of the game is kind of that the Tampa Bay pen stepped up where the Seattle pen didn't.
Yeah, Taj was probably jumping up and down when they hit that homer off Kirby because he was off the hook.
Fair enough. Tampa's pen steps up for 2 2/3 shutout innings, while Seattle's pen 1 2/3 3 earned runs. Not the same.
You see why they won.
That's the Tampa Bay difference, and it has been for, I don't know, half a decade now.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit longer, honestly.
The win goes to Chris Davinsky, and the save goes to Pete Fairbanks. That's his 21st of the year.
Did not see him becoming their closer.
But he's been a good one, man.
He has been.
A loss for Isaiah Campbell, but it's worth mentioning that he's 4-1 with a 2.86 and 22 innings pitched this year.
He's been a good little move for the Mariners. Sorry.
That makes the series 1-1 there, Tampa Bay and Seattle. Seattle's feeling decent. They only get that game 1-0 on Thursday, so what can they do with the rest of the weekend? Game 3 is one that had a similar story. I mean, that's kind of the story of the series here. Tampa Bay wins this one 7-5 on Saturday as Seattle goes with an opener. We did talk about how they had back-to-back TBDs Saturday and Sunday. So this one did end up being an opener. They go with Trent Thornton versus Aaron Savali, who's been solid. Thornton gives up 1 unearned run in 2 innings pitched. That was on a Dominic Canzoni error in left field. A really bad play off the wall, but it's a weird wall in Tampa Bay in left field. I'm not sure if you saw that one.
That was one of the guys that they picked up in that Paul Sewald trade.
Yeah, the ball kind of bounced up on him funny and gets away from him, so that leads to a run. Savali on the other end, he gives up 4 in his first 2 innings, but that's all he gives up. He bears down and gives up 4 runs in 5 innings pitched. He gives up 4 hits, 3 walks, and has 3 Ks in that game. So the game's going to have to go to the pen again in that. Tampa Bay bats are just kind of too much for them.
I just feel like anytime like a team is going to go bullpen to bullpen with the Rays, they're most likely not going to win.
Which is exactly how this series ended up going. The Rays ended up putting up 2 spots in the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th innings.
Yeah, I mean, they would walk it off later in the 9th with that 2 spot, which is just even, I mean, the clutch pitching for the Mariners in this series just kind of seemed to disappear.
The game ended on a walk-off 2-run homer by Yandy Diaz,
who's been phenomenal this year.
Very disappointing for Seattle because Seattle tied the game the inning before on a passed ball to make it 5-5, but that makes it 7-5, and that'll do it on a walk-off. It's now 2-1 Tampa Bay. That would have ended the wild card series.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say real quick, the winner of that game, Poche, is now 11-3 with a 2.26 for Tampa Bay, man. Like, they just produce so much talent.
They really do.
It's so absurd.
After Seattle takes the first game of the series, they drop the next 2, so they desperately need to try to split that one.
Yeah, they win a 1-0 pitcher's duel in the first game, and then the pitching just has kind of disappeared ever since.
Once it went to bullpens, it was a Rays game. And this one's kind of similar. It's a 6-3 game for the Rays this time. They started the game with a 3 spot on Bryce Miller, so that is the answer for who they went with on Sunday in Seattle. Seattle goes with Bryce Miller.
That is a starter, at least, not an opener. So
yeah. Harold Ramirez gets a RBI, and Josh Lowe gets a double. They go. Miller goes 5 innings pitched, 9 hits, 1 walk, 7 K, and 5 earned runs. He leaves the game 5-0 Tampa Bay. So, I mean, after losing the last 2 games, you're down 5-0.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, anytime you leave a game 5-0 after the 3rd inning, like, you're not looking great.
Seattle tried to fight back, too. They really did. They had a Josh Rojas RBI single, a Sam Haggerty RBI single, and a Eugenio Suarez sac fly. That is all they will get in the game off Zach Eflin.
Yeah, they make it 5-3 at that point. The Rays do get 1 back in the bottom of the 6th, but that's it. I mean, Fairbanks shuts it down again for number 22.
Eflin in that game, he went 5 innings pitched. He got the win.
14 games he's won. 7
hits, 2 walks. He gets 6 Ks in that game. He's now 14-8 with a 3.53 ERA. Really good.
I literally, I knew when they signed him, I knew he was going to be this kind of guy for them. A mid-3s, I didn't think he'd win 15 games, and he's probably going to, which is kind of crazy.
Tampa Bay ends up taking that series 3-1, so now they would have even finished off a divisional series against this team.
Yeah, and they would be 1 game away from a CS.
And not to mention, they only lost that first game 1-0. I mean, we're 1 swing away from that being a 4-game sweep. Tampa Bay clearly looks like the better club after this one.
Well, I think they are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty apparent. I think it's actually crazy that they're not in first place. Shout out to the Orioles, who we're going to talk about very soon.
Right. After Toronto's sweep of Kansas City, Seattle is now a game back of Toronto for that second spot and a half game up on Texas.
Real quick about Kansas City that I saw that absolutely disgusted me. Zach Greinke this year is 1-15.
God, yeah.
Do you remember when he had a 1.66 ERA for the Dodgers, man? Oh my god.
Him and Wainwright really are going out sad as two legends.
They just gotta stop. They just stop
Same
pitching.
with Cueto, right?
Just stop pitching.
Yeah, Cueto, Wainwright, Mad Bum's out. He's a free agent.
He didn't want to.
He got DFA'd. That's the thing.
Yeah, but maybe
these guys didn't even
just
do
walk
that.
away though.
Fair
Mad
enough.
Bum doesn't have to pitch anymore.
No,
we know who he is.
He doesn't. Yeah, that's very true. Like you said, Tampa Bay's still only 3 games back of Baltimore, and neither of those teams are slowing down.
I can't believe they're 3 games out with how good they've been, man. They're 8.5 games up for that 1 seed in the wild card race. So they're pretty much in.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think they're blowing a 7.5 game lead.
It would take a catastrophic collapse for them to blow 9 games.
Yeah, it would be an 8-game lead.
9 games over the Rangers to get out completely.
8.5 to 8. They're 8 games up.
8.5 to a half game back. That's
8.
9 out of the playoffs. You add a half game because they're a half game out of them.
Okay.
It would be 9.
All right. Yeah, so 9 games out right now. But what I did want to ask you is, if you're Seattle, does this shake your confidence as a team? And if so, how much?
It's gotta a little bit, because they're 3-7 in their last 10, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak. And as hot as they were, man, baseball's up and down. And they're down right now, so they need to get back up.
I was going to say this really would shake my confidence, because the way that they've played well against teams that they see often, that's probably made them feel like they could really make a run here. And then they see a team that's been dominating the AL for a little bit, and they kind of get put in their place.
They probably had a lot of confidence after that Thursday game, too, and then it just got ripped away over the weekend.
Not a great response at all, especially by the pen pitchers, like we said, for Seattle. They have to step up going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, these are 2 teams that I'm pretty confident we'll be paying attention to for the remainder of the season.
Like we said, Toronto starts a 4-game against Texas right now, and Seattle starts a series against the Angels. I'm not sure if it's a 4-game, but it does start tonight. And so they're going to have to make a statement against a team who's not great.
That is, we got another busy week ahead.
It is going to be busy, most definitely.
And for the final segment of this one, we're going to touch on the American League East showdown we were discussing, where the Red Sox were going to be fighting for their season, essentially, against the first-place Baltimore Orioles, as they were starting a 3-game in Fenway.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this being kind of a last stand for the Red Sox, and if they can't step up, not feeling great about them.
Yeah, and they really didn't.
They could have done better.
Their pitching really just didn't show up this weekend. The first game was all Baltimore, and their pitching did show up in this one. Specifically, Kyle Bradish, who was going against Houck, like we said. And we did kind of call this.
Yeah, we didn't say it was going to be this dramatic of a game, which is pretty wild.
I mean, I didn't think it would be this dramatic. No. It's an 11-2 Baltimore win. There's really not much to say about it, just besides Kyle Bradish shoved. He's 11-6 now with a 3.03. He goes 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 9 walks.
9 Ks.
Or 9 Ks, sorry.
9 strikeouts in that game for Bradish. He looks great that game.
I mean, dude, he could be a really nice find for them and for seasons to come.
Most definitely. Low 3. His ERA did not move an inch in that game. He was at a 3.03 before. He's at a 3.03 now.
Yeah, because he just gave up that 1-2 spot in the bottom of the 6th, but still, I mean, if that's all you're giving up.
Hawk in that game, not the same story as Bradish. He goes 5 1/3, so he tries to keep pace with him, but he gives up 8 hits and 2 walks. 5 earned runs and 5 Ks. He's now 4-9 and with a 5.28.
Yeah, the very polar opposite. He kind of got slapped around from the jump.
Kind of
not really the jump. It was like the 4th inning, and then it was pretty late, actually.
In recent memory, he's been a more highly touted guy, like before the season, I'm saying.
He didn't really get hit around until the 6th inning, which is where Bradish also faltered a little bit. So he only had given up 1 run until then, and then the Orioles just put up 6 runs in the last 2 innings. I mean, 2 in the 8th, 4 in the 9th. That's just wraps.
The Orioles end up having multiple RBIs by Aaron Hicks, Cedric Mullins, and Adley Rutschman. Adley Rutschman ends up having getting 3 RBI in that game. Just a dominant game for Baltimore, and Boston has to leave discouraged in their own building.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a terrible way to start a series. They always say the first game sets the tone, and that's a terrible tone to set, man.
And it's pretty wild that Game 2 could be even more disappointing.
Game 2 was absolutely insane.
One of the most insane we've seen in a while. It seems like Boston was fighting for their life, but they couldn't get the runners in.
Oh, they were absolutely fighting, bro. They had 23 hits.
Yeah, we see 37 combined hits in the game. That's 23 for Boston and 14 for Baltimore. Baltimore ends up winning this game 13-12. We asked if Sale and Flaherty would step up to be their past great forms.
Nope.
And neither did, man. Jack Flaherty goes 3 1/3 inning pitch. He gives up 8 hits, a walk, 5 runs, 4 earned. Both of these pitchers gave up an unearned run, so it was sloppy fielding, too.
Yeah, 2 errors from Baltimore, 1 from Boston.
Only 3 Ks in the game for Flaherty, so he really wasn't doing his job that day. And neither was Sale, giving up even more. 4 innings pitched for him, 6 hits, 2 walks, 7 runs with 6 earned. Only 5 Ks in that for him. Really bad. Neither gets the decision, though, which goes to show how wild the score was.
How much longer do you think you see Chris Sale pitching? I mean, he just looks like a totally different guy since he's been injured.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with how long he has under contract, but I would say probably exactly that long.
You don't think anybody re-signs him afterward?
No, I wouldn't be super surprised if he ends up DFA'd before then.
I think maybe like somebody like him could turn into a bullpen arm and it could work.
You think so?
Yeah, why not? 2-inning guy.
The running score in this game was absolutely crazy. Boston went up 2-0 early, so I mean they're feeling pretty good. But then 5 unanswered by Baltimore makes it 7-2 Baltimore.
Well, 6 unanswered, 7, because they put up 2 in the top of the 4th as well. Before Boston would get it back.
7 unanswered. That's very true. They put up 5 in succession though. Then 4 from Boston makes it 7-6. So we go 2-0, 7-2, 7-6. Baltimore's still up after the 5th inning. Baltimore then puts up a 5 spot in the next 2 frames combined, and that'll make it 12-6 in the middle of the 7th. Boston responds with a 3-run 7th inning for a 12-9 Baltimore lead. Baltimore ends up putting up 1 more on a single.
And that would be the key run.
Right. That makes it 13-9, and Boston puts up a 3 spot on Yainer Cano in the 9th, but falls just short 13-12. Trevor Story, that is, was the tying run on 3rd with the go-ahead run at first to end that game.
Yeah, you talk about how demoralizing that 11-12 game was. Imagine coming all the way back to making it 13-12 and you just fall a little bit short.
Super disappointing.
With 23 hits, dude. That's crazy. Anytime you see 20 hits, you're like, damn, they were going off that night and somehow they just don't pull it out.
And not for nothing, Yainer Cano, they get 3 runs on him, but he still closes it out. It's not a save because it was a 4-run lead when he came in. He has a 2.04 ERA after giving up those 3 runs.
That's absurd. And they're still pitching without Batista, aren't they?
They are, yeah. He's on the 15 days still, which is brutal for them.
That is brutal. Somehow they're still just winning games like this, though.
Yeah, Cano gives up 3 that inning and still finishes it off. And, yep, now they're up 2-0.
Game 3 now. On Sunday, the series finale. This is the game that Boston needed, but it was just a little bit too late.
When you look into how they got it, too, they really didn't earn this one, quite literally.
Yeah, there were a bunch of Orioles errors, it appears.
Yeah, this game goes 7-3 to Boston, but it starts really scary for Boston as Hicks does get an RBI single and Frazier gets a 2 RBI triple. That's Adam Frazier for Baltimore. Baltimore goes up 3-0 in the 2nd inning, but Brian Bayo, man, he really got it under control, and he goes 5-inning pitch. 7 hits, so, I mean, people were on. 4 Ks and 3 earned runs. He gets the win.
Yeah, I just feel like the Orioles are always going to put up, like, at least 7 to 10 hits.
That's the thing, man. This should have been an Orioles sweep. Quite literally, there's no other way to put it. The story of the game is Baltimore's fielding. 5 out of 7 of Boston's runs are unearned in this game.
That's really tough.
Fielding errors by Urias and O'Hearn and a throwing error for Adley Rutschman into center field. Really ugly stuff. Baltimore sweeps if they don't play sloppy here.
Yeah, it appears they would have, but, I mean, Boston will take what they can get. It might just be a little bit too late at this point because now they sit 6 out. So
I'm saying, me personally, after watching this series, Boston should have lost all 3, and I think you can kind of put a pin in them.
I wouldn't disagree. I mean, there's not really much time to make up the 6 games, and they don't really seem like a team that's going to be better than any of the teams in front of them.
That's what I'm saying, because making up 6 games is something if you're a better team, but what, you think Seattle and Texas are just going to lose all their games?
I don't think Texas, Seattle, or Toronto are worse teams than them, so
it's going to be really tough to see down the stretch. A lot of these teams do play each other, so maybe Boston can benefit from that, but
I mean, they got to start winning games again, though.
Not feeling great about them all. You think they're done?
It's tough to say done with the number like 6 because it is doable. We've seen it happen before, but it's really tough. It would have to take a collapse from not 1 but 2 teams in front of them.
I guess we could see if they play a really good series against the Yankees to start the week, and
yeah, it's a huge series.
And Texas has a tough series against Toronto because they have been skidding. I guess you could flip it.
They are hosting the Yankees instead of going to Yankee Stadium, but they're basically a 500 team on both the home. At home and on the road.
A lot of this race is going to depend on how Texas steps up for this 4-game in Toronto.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening wherever you do. This was episode 22 of the 9 Frames podcast. I have been Bill Whalen.
And I'm Mike Whalen.
It is Monday, September 11th, 2023. You can catch us on YouTube at 9 Frames Podcast. We're on Spotify at 9 Frames. And we are on X at 9 Frames Pod. You could also catch us on playergm.com. You can see tonight, for September 11th, definitely the Mets and the Yankees will be doing their classic tributes. They wear special uniforms, patches, hats for the FDNY and NYPD, and only respect to those lost in the attacks of 9/11.
Yeah, our condolences go out to all of those families affected. Yeah, we might be there in attendance tonight. It'll be nice to see the tribute, but keep everybody in your thoughts as usual.
Nothing but respect to those lost, and nothing but respect to those who still serve as police officers and firefighters today.
I can't believe it's been 22 years, man.
Pretty wild, man.
That's crazy.
So we hope that you folks enjoy your week of baseball, and definitely don't take anything for granted. Life is short. Enjoy it all.
Yeah, enjoy your week, everybody.